the government shutdown. It's now day
8, I believe.
Yeah, who's
1
counting?
week.
No end in sight. Roughly 750,000 federal workers are now on furlough. And get this, now the president is saying some of those federal workers might not get back pay. That's something Democrats see as a strong arm tactic and not legal, they say. So that could head to the courts if they try to pull that one off.
You know, and this one is something that I'm watching, getting ready to fly out today. We're starting to see travel delays across the country in Burbank, Newark, Phoenix, and Denver, to name a few. This is due to staffing shortages. The transportation secretary warns this could get worse. Not what you want to hear.
3,500 flights delayed yesterday alone,
We were
according
talking
to
about this.
FlightAware.
And you were flying.
I was flying last night from Denver
On the
into
list.
LaGuardia. Everything was great. We were doing early, actually, which I was excited about because we know we have to get up early here for Connecting America. And about 45 minutes out, the captain came on and said, "There's a ground stop at LaGuardia. We're going to circle." And we did for...
Which,
probably
by the
more
way,
than an
was a
hour.
regular occurrence well before the government
At LaGuardia,
shutdown. As
yes, it
someone
is.
who flies into and out of New York all the time,
So we
we
don't
can
know.
attest
That's very
it's
true.
basically par for the course
Yeah, exactly.
at
Was-
most New York airports.
Was that the conversation at the airports yesterday? Were you hearing a lot of people talking about that?
You know, we started out at a smaller airport where things were running pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
And obviously everybody was aware there could be issues. So I think they got there a little bit early. Everything seemed to be okay at this point.
Okay.
Yeah,
But we know
I
some of those airports are already having problems.
always thought this would be the time that the shutdown happens for the American people. It was always about the flights.
You called that yesterday.
Yeah.
Another big story we're following: James Comey, the former
Mhm.
FBI director, set to be arraigned in Alexandria, Virginia, just a few hours from now. There he is. The former FBI director will face 2 charges: making false statements to Congress and the obstruction of justice. A federal grand jury indicted Comey last month. President Trump has been pushing for this prosecution, saying Comey is being held responsible for his crimes against our nation. We should point out no one in the Eastern District of Virginia would help Pam Bondi try this case. She had to search around the country for someone to try it. She found those attorneys in North Carolina. This is a very uncommon occurrence. It's a big office in Virginia.
We'll see.
No one would sign on.
No, just the lone prosecutor by herself, who, as I understand, has never tried a federal case. So
That is correct.
you know what else we're following? Texas National Guard troops. They are now in Illinois. This is all part of President Trump's crackdown on big city crime. There they are, some of them. Pentagon saying 200 Texas Guardsmen are at Elwood U.S. Army Reserve Center, that's near Chicago. Their mission, says the Pentagon, protect federal personnel and property amid some anti-immigration protests in Chicago. Now, the city and the governor trying to block the Guard from heading to Illinois, but a district judge ruled in favor of the federal government so far at this point. Lot to unpack here on this hump day for us. We're joined by Republican political strategist Jeanette Hoffman here at the Diner. Jeanette, where to begin? All right, let's start.
Did we not get you a cup of coffee?
I think I need
we
about
really
3
should
cups of
get
coffee
you
right
coffee
now,
before
I'll
guys.
gladly
we
share
start
mine.
this.
Oh boy! So
All right.
where should we start, Jim?
Let's start with the Guard in Illinois. Obviously, against the wishes of the Illinois governor, the mayor of Chicago also saying the president needs to stop this war on Chicago. And there are questions about whether he has the legal authority to even be doing this. Where do you think that stands?
Well, a lot's going on in Chicago. I mean, the partisan statements from the governor, from the mayor, are just over the top. If you just take the partisanship out of it, which I know is hard to do because we live in very divided times.
I was going to say,
But if just look at the footage of what is happening in Chicago, right? It's just out of control. I mean, people ramming into federal officers. We had this situation over the weekend where ICE officers were calling for backup from the Chicago PD, and the Chicago PD was told not to respond. I mean, it's really out of control.
But out of control in isolated areas of the city. I mean, we're not talking about the entire city of Chicago.
But does anyone think that President Trump was going to just stand by and let anarchists and protests run rampant and federal law enforcement agents come under fire here? No, of course he's going to send in the National Guard.
Jeanette, you were talking about partisan rhetoric, and we were talking to a council member from Portland yesterday about this, and she was very against Trump sending in troops into that area there. One thing I asked her is, I said, what would it look like to work together in a positive way? I do agree that we're hearing partisan rhetoric, but
Yeah.
also from both sides. Would you give any counsel to the conservative Republican side on the way they're speaking about this to make this a partnership as opposed to opposition, and also recommendations to the left as well?
Well, I love what you said about a partnership, right? Because I feel like local law enforcement should be welcoming in backup here because, that's what we need. Let's put it the citizens of Portland, the citizens of Chicago, right? I mean, we just want to keep them safe. And
Yeah.
I think that's what the federal government is saying. But the messaging is getting messed up here, on both sides.
Well, whether it's Portland or Chicago, no matter what the city, most of these local officials and governors acknowledge crime can be a problem in these cities. Why not work with the governor? Why not work with the mayor on what the things they are asking for, which is more funding for law enforcement? Because ultimately, if you send in the National Guard, everyone knows they're going to leave within 30 days. That doesn't do anything for crime in the long run. Absolutely nothing. Why not work with them in a long-term solution to increase law enforcement in those cities?
I think that's a good point, Dave. But I think in the short term, I think you have to get the situation under
But
control.
he's not
first.
attempting to do that. Why not?
Well, I mean, listen, I think the appropriations have to come from Congress, but I hear your point. But I think right now the federal agents are under attack. ICE agents have been threatened 1,000 times more in the past several days than they ever have been. So I hear your point, and I think that's something that everybody should work together on.
We could talk about this issue alone
Yes.
for the entire 2 hours of this program. We want to talk about some other issues. We know that Comey's set to be arraigned, the former FBI director, set to be arraigned in a couple of hours. Critics of the administration say this is just pure politics here and retribution. What do you have to say about that? Retribution by President Trump against one of his so-called enemies.
Well, listen, weaponization of the justice system happened under the Biden administration, and President Trump is saying this is justice. This is not weaponization. A lot of people are concerned that the executive branch shouldn't be talking about this, right? I mean, there should be a separation from the executive branch and the attorney general. But President Trump has obviously a different opinion about this. And he says, I am the chief law enforcement officer. But listen, the two things can be true at the same time. And this is my personal opinion on this. I don't think James Comey is a great person. I think he did things that were not correct. And he should be held accountable by a jury of his peers, by the grand jury here. But I think President Trump, listen, we need to get back to a place where the American public has faith in our justice system, right? I don't think anybody thought that what happened to President Trump was correct. All the indictments against him. And I think he got a lot of public sympathy for that. And when he was running for president, a lot of people thought he was politically targeted. But what he's doing now, I think he should stay out of it and let whatever happens to James Comey and some other people, let's just have it happen under the justice system.
Isn't it too late for that? He already said on social media directly to Pam Bondi what he wants her to do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's happened. I'm personally not comfortable with it, but the president has a very strong opinion and he's going to express it.
Jeanette, if you were to sit down with the president right now, what would be your advice to him as a strategist, how to handle this situation to hopefully find a better way moving forward? We can all say we don't like what happened in the past. What would be your advice moving forward for leadership in a better country?
Well, first, let's work on getting the government reopened, right?
That would be nice.
But anyway, I think we should just say, listen, we're not going to weaponize our justice system. We're going to move forward, and we're going to have a government that works for the American people, and justice is blind.
How would you make that appeal to him? How would you get that to President Trump to have him listen to that and really understand that?
Well, that's a tough situation. I think I would work with some of his closest advisors that have his ear.
Yeah.
What about the shutdown? You said, let's get the government open, and lots of finger pointing on both sides. Who's to blame? There's some new polling out that does show that those who were polled are blaming the president for not handling this the way they wish he would. And the Republicans, in fact, blaming Republicans for this shutdown. What's your take on that?
Well, it depends on which poll you look at. I looked at a Harvard University poll yesterday. First of all, no surprise, 70% of Americans don't think the government should be shut down. Shocking, right?
Hey, we can agree on that.
Yeah.
That's good.
But I also saw that 65% of Americans think the Democrats should accept a clean continuing resolution. That goes back to Biden-level budget spending, which is what Republicans have put on the table here. So, listen, Republicans passed a clean continuing resolution that Democrats voted for 13 times under the Biden administration.
including just 2 years ago.
Yeah. Now, Majority Leader John Thune is going to go today and hold a vote for the 6th time, and let's see what happens. But here's what I'm a little bit optimistic about. There was a bipartisan meeting at a Thai restaurant yesterday with members of the Senate. So hopefully, this is something I think our leaders should be doing more often, right? Just sitting down like in a diner like we're doing right now.
Heck yeah, man. I agree with you there. The Tip O'Neill strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was
Ronald
reading
Reagan.
there's some quiet negotiations going on behind the scenes that people aren't really aware of. So maybe some forward momentum.
So I'm a little bit optimistic, but not a whole lot, because there's still, I think the sides are a little bit far apart.
Over or under 20 days. Shutdown.
I think under, because here's why.
Okay.
The airport stuff that we just talked about, people are not going to tolerate it for very long. I'm flying out to Chicago on Friday. I'm running in the Chicago Marathon. And if my flight is canceled,
Good luck in the
I'm going to be very upset.
And good luck with the flight.
Yeah. But listen, I don't think that the American people are going to tolerate this for very long.
Jeanette Hoffman, thanks so much for being
thank
here.
you
at
so
the
much.
Diner.